So you're planning to get into motorcycles, huh? So if you ask yourself these 5 simple questions, you can truly begin your journey to becoming a motorcycle rider. Hey guys, it's Mel, your apparel and gear expert here in New York City. Now before we go on, I'm gonna please ask you to please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out. So what are these questions that I usually ask my customers when they tell me they want to get into motorcycle riding? Well, actually, I usually start with a statement. We all have an image in our head of how we want to look when we pull up to dinner to meet our friends who told us not to get a motorcycle. It really does start with a look we have in our minds. It begins to lead us to asking questions. Here are 5 questions that I find immensely helpful. Number 1, why do you want to get a motorcycle? Number 2, what kind of motorcycle do you see yourself on? Number 3, what kind of riding do you plan to do? Number 4, where do you live? And what kind of riding do you plan to do? And number 5, how soon do you plan to start riding? Now this is more in regards to apparel, but you can still use it for this when getting a motorcycle. Now with these 5 questions, you should be able to give yourself a good starting point as you begin your journey to finding a motorcycle and seeing what this lifestyle is all about. Yeah, with these 5 simple questions, I found that it not only helps with finding the right motorcycle for you, but in my position, in what I do, it really helps me with my clients in terms of finding the right gear for you. Now, I'm no expert. Oh wait, I am. So let's go over these questions. For now, I'm going to start off with asking these questions, but this will be more in regards to choosing the right motorcycle for you. So I know I've been talking a lot about how will I look? What do you see in your mind when you're riding a motorcycle? Yeah, I know it sounds silly, but it gives me a good insight in terms of what you're looking for. So let's start with the first question. And remember, this is in regards to choosing a motorcycle. Why do you want a motorcycle? So I usually ask this, honestly, to kind of gauge where people's minds are at that time. By doing this, it kind of gives me an idea of how serious they are looking to getting into motorcycling. Sometimes it's for style, sometimes it's just for fun, but regardless, it just gives me a good starting point to really delve into the mind of this new rider. Now, the usual answers I get are pretty general. Well, I just need a way of getting out of the city. And I just wanted something different to take my significant other on. Or like me, I hate the trains. I'd rather ride a motorcycle to work. And by getting this type of information, it kind of helps me realize like what kind of style they're looking for, both in motorcycle and in gear. Second question, what kind of motorcycle do you see yourself on? So I usually ask this question because it gives me an idea of like what kind of style they're looking for. Are they looking to get like some sort of super bike, where they're crouched down and, racing through the city or the track? Or do they want something more casual? And honestly, what I've personally noticed, a lot of new riders, including myself, go for that cafe racer kind of look. Go figure. So once I know this, I can tell them which direction to go in terms of motorcycles. Is it going to be a Ducati, like Super Sport? Is it going to be a Triumph T100 or T120? Or is it going to be some custom cafe racer? So once they kind of tell me what kind of motorcycle they see themselves on, I'll direct them to the type of motorcycle that I think is right for them. Now, whether that be like a Scrambler from Ducati, whether it be like a Triumph Street Twin or T100, or whether it be like a BMW. This question helps me out immensely. Third question, what kind of riding do you plan to do? Is this just for fun? Is it for getting to work? Is it going to be just your main mode of transportation? Or is it all of the above? This question, it kind of brings focus to like what types of motorcycles they should be looking at. Now, of course, if you're a brand new rider, I'm not going to suggest that you get like a Panigale V4 or a Triumph Thruxton. But the cool thing is nowadays, a lot of these newer bikes, like for example, the new Monster by Ducati, has different riding modes and power modes. That way you can just essentially dumb it down until you're ready to just kind of fly. Then you just make a flip of a switch. Fourth question, where do you live and what kind of riding do you plan to do? So me asking, at least here in New York City, where do you live basically gives me an idea of what type of routes you'll be taking. Is it mostly city streets or is it mostly highway? That kind of affects what type of motorcycle you should be considering. And the second part of the question of what type of riding you plan to do is more to see, like, do you plan to go out into the countryside? Or do you just plan on hitting the grind in the urban city? And finally, the fifth question. How soon do you plan to start riding? Now, to be honest with you, this question is more in regards to like riding gear. You know, sometimes you'll go to a dealership and you can purchase the bike now, but if you're in a place like New York City and it's winter, sometimes the dealership will offer like winter storage. So then the first ride you'll be taking will be more towards spring. But this question is very important to me in terms of like riding gear, because I don't want to sell someone a winter jacket when they plan to start riding in spring, because they will just be sweating and cursing me out in their heads. So by asking yourself these 5 questions, it will help you find the right motorcycle for your needs, regardless if you're a brand new rider or experienced one. And these 5 questions are a great lead up to tell any salesman who is helping you find the right motorcycle. You don't want to just get a motorcycle for the sake of the look or the picture you had in your mind, because let's say you pick like a super bike where you're living in a place like New York City where you're not even opening it up, and if you're older like me, your back won't like it, and then you're not going to enjoy your first experience with a motorcycle. Now, these initial questions can definitely be used when helping you find the right motorcycle, but they can also be used when you're looking for the right gear. So now let's circle back to using these questions in regards to riding gear. So again, question number 1, why do you want to get a motorcycle? So by asking this question, it helps me identify, at least for here in New York City, are they riding in city streets like New York City? Like, is it Manhattan? Is it Queens? Is it Brooklyn? Is it Staten Island? Is it the Bronx? Or do they live across the river in Jersey? Actually, that's New Jersey. So simply putting it, it helps tell me if they're riding on local roads or on highway. That way I'm not pushing them, for example, to get full leather gear, which would not necessarily be good if they're stuck in traffic here in New York City, where they're not building up enough speed and they're just sweating. Full leathers are great, especially if you're on an open road like mostly highway. But if you're wearing full leathers, especially in the summertime here in New York City, you're just gonna be sweating. I'm sorry. So if someone told me they're riding mostly local, urban here, let's say, for example, in Manhattan, then I would probably push them more towards like a textile jacket. Still great protection, but better airflow. Second question, what kind of motorcycle do you see yourself on? It kind of tells me which direction to go in terms of style. That way, for example, if someone is getting a cafe racer, I'm not going to try to sell them like an AGV Pista, which was truly made for the track and doesn't match that retro look. And honestly, it's a bit of an overkill for someone who's just riding here in the city. I would point them more towards like a Bell Bullet or even an Arai Region X. And that's just strictly for helmets. That way, they're still retaining that image in their head of how they want to look when they pull up to dinner to meet their friends who told them not to get a motorcycle. But if they were getting like a Panigale V4, which I don't suggest as a brand new rider, I'd get them more like race appropriate looking gear, like Alpine Stars racing gear, Dainese racing gear, or even Ducati branded Dainese racing gear. Question number 3. What kind of riding do you plan to do? Is it for fun? Is it for work? Is it your main mode of transportation? Or is it all above? By asking this question, it helps me figure out like which is the best helmet for them, which is the best jacket for them, which are the best gloves for them, which are the best pants for them, and which are the best boots for them. So let's just say, for example, you're getting a motorcycle cafe racer style here in New York City, and you plan to ride from home to work every day. Well, I mean, 5 days a week at least. So what I would do is this. Knowing they're riding in New York City and plan to ride year round, and knowing that here in the city, because of traffic, a lot of stop and go, I would know they'll probably get hot. So starting from the head and working our way down, I would probably show the customer an Arai helmet because it has great airflow. And because of the round shape, it still has that retro kind of look. And then for like jackets, if they were the type of person that gets really hot, I would show them like a Revit Eclipse jacket or an Alpine Star Luke Air V2. Both very similar jackets, both textile and with amazing airflow. If they wanted something a little bit more dressed up, honestly, I would say the Roland Sands Ronin jacket. Either the fully perforated or the partially perforated, like over here and here. And then for pants, most likely a great pair of speedy riding jeans. They look like regular jeans, but they offer great protection and have adjustable knee armor. I'm doing this because I'm rubbing my knees right now. I know, that's weird. For gloves, I'd say the Alpine Stars Mustang gloves. Perforated, of course. And then for boots, how about the TCX Blend 2 boots? They look retro, they look cool, and they're waterproof. Fourth question, where do you live and what kind of riding do you plan to do? So as I stated earlier, by identifying where in the city you live or wherever you live, it helps me give an idea, especially for the new rider, what is a great starting selection of riding gear for them to pick. And it's the same thing again. If someone is riding more on local roads, I'm not going to try to push them to get all this hardcore leather armor, leather gear, leather jacket, leather everything. Although it's great protection, I want them to feel comfortable so they can focus on the motorcycle riding they are doing. But if you happen to be riding mostly on highway, then of course I'm going to push for leather, because leather does offer better protection. And finally, question number 5. How soon do you plan to start on riding? If you tell me you're planning on riding when it's cold, then I'm gonna make sure your first gear is winter gear. But if you tell me you're planning to start when it's hot, then I'm gonna gear you up with summer gear. I think the worst thing you can do is pick your first gear that is not appropriate for the season you will be first riding in, and then you just end up feeling uncomfortable, making your first experience with your motorcycle a horrible one. So there you have it. By knowing the answers to these 5 simple questions, you're gonna have a great starting point on your motorcycle journey. Whether if it's helping you find the first motorcycle or if it's helping you find your first gear. I have found that these 5 questions help you with your first steps. So what about you? What other questions that I haven't mentioned do you ask yourself or others around you? Let me know in the comments below. Looking to achieve that cafe racer kind of look? Well, let me show you what I use here in New York City. First, I like to start off with a cool motorcycle t-shirt like this Fast Out t-shirt. Next, I like to go with a pair of nice riding jeans, like for example, these Zin riding jeans. Next, I like to find some sort of riding jacket or riding shirt. I like to wear something similar to this. This is a waxed cotton riding shirt by Core-Tech. Sometimes you can even use a riding denim. Of course, let's not forget to use riding boots. I like to use something like these Revit Rodeo riding boots. I'll be honest with you, I forgot my riding gloves, but I normally use Alpine Stars Mustang V2 riding gloves. And of course, you can't forget your riding helmet, the Bell Bullet. For my riding belt, I like to use the Anson belts. Now these belts are pretty cool because they work on a ratchet system and they don't have actual holes, so I can literally adjust it to whatever size I need it. Another thing I use is a minimalist wallet. I like to use this Muradin minimalist wallet. I used to carry those bigger wallets that were like this big and fit my back pocket with a big chain, but I found this kind of wallet to be much more practical. Here are 3 helmets you can consider for a retro helmet. So today I want to talk about the Bell Bullet, the Gringo SV, and the Arai Regent X, and why each have their pros and cons for making a great retro helmet. So let's start off with the Bell Bullet. So as some of you may know, I already own a Bell Bullet. So here are my thoughts for a Bell Bullet as a retro helmet. Pros: it has a wide field of vision, which makes it easier for doing head checks. Not to mention people can see who the cool person is riding the motorcycle. It has air intake options and exhaust options. It has a really cool retro design with some really nice touches to the interior. And it comes with a ton of different color options and visor options and these thingy options, so you can really customize the look. Now the cons. It's a loud helmet if you're going at highway speeds, and that's because of the neck curtain. It's not very narrow, which means it gets a lot of wind noise coming up from the bottom. Although it has airflow options, honestly, they really don't do that much. You have your top airflow, which always remains open, and then you have your mouth airflow, which yes, you can open and close, but honestly, it doesn't do much. Also, Bell Bullets only come in a round oval head shape. which means if you're any other head shapes, it may not fit too perfectly. Also the price. This may be a pro for some, but a con for others. For a standard bell bullet, they come in at around $440, and for a carbon fiber bell bullet, they go for around $640. So that might be a little pricey for some people, because you can get a comparable retro helmet for a bit less. Which brings me to our next helmet, the Biltwell Gringo SV. What are the pros of the Gringo SV? It also has a cool retro look, but unlike the bell bullet, it actually has a larger chin guard, which means more protection. Unlike the previous model, the Gringo S, the Gringo SV actually has airflow intake and exhaust, which you can actually control. I mean, check it out, that top airflow has 3 positions, and that's for each side. So then you can control the amount of airflow coming into your helmet. And check out that airflow intake on the chin. Those are some pretty large vents. So unlike the bell bullet, you're actually getting better airflow that you can actually control. And like the bell bullet, it has a fairly similar rear exhaust airflow. Another thing I like about the Gringo SV is the articulated visor. See, in the previous model of the Gringo S, that visor just went up or down, which meant kind of similar to this bell bullet, if you're riding along and it's just, you kind of crack it open, it can actually just snap down just like that. And if you're doing a lot of city riding, you'll find that having that articulated visor gives you better airflow options without the fear of the visor coming down if you hit a bump. And of course, another great pro for the helmet is the price. They come in at the great price of $299.95, which makes it a fairly affordable retro style helmet with fantastic features. Now here are some cons. The biggest con for me was the sizing and fitment. Now I normally wear a medium in the bell bullet and a medium in a rise. But when I went to try on a Biltwell Gringo SV in medium, man, that sucker was tight. I mean, I was able to get it on my head, but I was feeling every inch of it. I mean, once I had the helmet on, it felt great. So if I were to get one, I'm gonna size up and get a size large. Another con was the weight. Now granted, I was comparing it to my bell bullet carbon, but man, I could definitely feel the difference in weight. Also another con, it's a bit noisy at high speeds. I mean, it's not as bad as bell bullet, but there are quieter helmets out there. It does have limited designs in terms of the colors. Now I get it, it's a new helmet, so they're sticking with solid colors for now, but I think it would be cool to see different designs like you find on the Gringo S or even the bell bullets. But who knows, maybe that'll come later. And as my final choice, let's look at the Rye Regent X. Now I know this isn't a Regent X, it's my Defiant, but this helmet is very similar to the Regent X. So work with me, people. So what are the pros with the Rye Regent X? Now because Rye has gone with a round egg-shaped shell, it kind of has that retro look. Now I know that's debatable, but works for me. And as you've seen in my other videos, they're extremely comfortable. I mean, honestly, you can't beat Rye's liners. Like I said before, they're like pillows. Of course, another great pro with Rye is all that adjustable airflow. You got top head airflow, brow airflow, mouth airflow, and rear airflow. And of course, almost all of that airflow is adjustable. And another pro, despite all that great airflow, is that it's a fairly quiet helmet because it has a more narrow neck curtain. Another plus/pro is that this helmet is not only DOT approved, it's Snell approved, which means you can take it to the track. And let's not forget all the safety features that come with Rye helmets. Remember, all these air vents are designed to break off in the event of a fall so that it becomes a smooth surface. So what are some cons with Rye helmets? Of all 3, it's kind of retro looking. I mean, let's be honest here, it's very modern looking. I mean, yes, it does have that round head shape, but out of the 3, it doesn't look as retro as the Gringo SV or the bell bullet. And as a final con for a Rye Regent X, I'd have to say it's the price. A standard Regent X starts at $579.95. So that's a little up there, especially in comparison to the Gringo SV or the bell bullet. So in conclusion, what are some final thoughts for me? So I think it boils down to 3 things: the look, functionality, and the price. So in my opinion, if you're going for the look, I say get the bell bullet. Now if you're going for functionality, I say get an Rye Regent X. But if you're going for the price, which will have the best of both worlds of the look and the function, I think the Gringo SV is right up your alley. So I bet you're wondering, what do I lean more towards? Well, for me, I chose the Arai. Now I know we're talking about the Region X's, but I don't got one right now. But I went with an Arai helmet because A, it kind of has that retro look, comfort, airflow, and safety features. So when it's all said and done, there are many approaches you can go when looking for the right retro helmet for you. Now keep in mind that some helmets are more appropriate for urban riding, where you're not building up high speeds like you would on a highway. And then some helmets are actually better not only in an urban environment, but on the highway. So some good urban retro choices, I would say the Bell Bullet or the Gringo SV. And if you plan to go out on the highway more, where you're building faster speeds, I say get the Arai Regent X. But when it's all said and done, the choice is up to you. So what about you? What, in your opinion, is the perfect retro helmet? Let me know in the comments below.
So when riding around New York City, is it better to ride with your shield closed or open? Let me tell you what I think. I say neither, and let me tell you why. So riding up with your shield, aka visor up, is excellent for airflow. It does present some problems in terms of wind noise and of bugs coming into your face and any other objects that might be flying around through the city. And while riding around with your visor down is also good in terms of giving you eye protection, if it's hot, like in a hot day in New York City, not so fun. So what I suggest is riding it with it partially down with a little crack right there for airflow. This way you get the benefits of both eye protection and airflow.
Because it's hot here.
Here's how you properly fit a motorcycle helmet. Now, assuming you already measured your head size and figured out what size you are and head shape, let me show you all how I size someone for a helmet. First, you want to put the helmet on. Next, I want you to take notice of how it feels on the top of your head. Does it feel like whole hands on your head? Or does it feel like fingertips on particular areas on top of your head? If it feels like whole hands on top of your head, that's a good thing. Basically, I'm trying to find out if it feels even on the top of your head and no pressure points. Now, while the helmet's still on, I want you to grab the chin guard and slowly pull down. I'm gonna use a hat for this example, just so you can see better. So while you're pulling down, the helmet should, stop right around there. And this is supposed to represent the inner liner, the top of the inner liner. Now, if you pull down and your helmet does this, and touch the bridge of your nose, the helmet's too big. So here's my helmet, watch me pull it down, and it stops before touching the bridge of my nose. Next, I want you to pay attention to how your cheeks are with the cheek pads. Ideally, your cheeks should be pushed in a little bit. Now, this is my Arai Defiant, which is a few years old, so the cheek pads are a bit broken in. But, as you can see here, even though it's a few years old, it's still applying some pressure on my cheeks. So basically, you kind of want a chipmunk face like this. That's not a chipmunk face. The cheek pads should feel like they're kind of pushing on the inside of your teeth. Now, if the helmet is too tight where the cheek pads are causing you to not be able to close your mouth, the helmet's a little bit too tight. So you might have to change the cheek pads. Ideally, we check for this because you want as many contact points on the inside of your helmet as possible. With more contact points touching your face, the helmet could do its job and absorb impact. So what I've found after sizing hundreds of people for motorcycle helmets, it's best to wear the helmet for a few minutes to see if any pressure points start popping up. If you start feeling any pressure points now, in my experience, it doesn't really get any better. Yes, I know there is a break-in period, but a lot of that has to do with the cheek pads and not so much with the top liner. So after you put on the helmet, pull down, make sure it doesn't touch the bridge of your nose, and seeing that your cheeks are being pushed in, and then checking to make sure that it feels like whole hands on top of your head and not fingers. Wear it for a few minutes to make sure it feels comfortable. If the helmet you're wearing checks all the boxes, it sounds like you have a proper fitting helmet. Now, full disclosure, it's always best to go into a motorcycle shop to have someone properly fit you. There are so many different head shapes. Different brands of helmets fit very differently. Where you might be medium in one brand, you might be large in another. So as a quick summary, figure out what size your head is by measuring it right over here. Figure out if your head is intermediate oval, long oval, or round oval. Once you know those things, find a brand that will work best for you. Then try on the helmet. Make sure it feels like whole hands on your head. Make sure when you pull down on the chin guard, it doesn't touch the bridge of your nose. Make sure there's some pressure on your cheeks, not too much. And wear it for a few minutes to make sure it's comfortable and no weird pressure points show up. So after parking in New York City, do you leave your helmet on your bike and go into the store or whatever you're going into? I say please do not. You know, some of these helmets are like, $500 with your $300 comm and whatever shield you got. That could be a big problem. Guys, it's still New York City. It's not the suburbs. There's tons of fun people walking around who'll gladly take your expensive helmets. And then you're left going into a store to buy a new helmet, comms, and dark visor. See you next time, guys. Hey guys, it's Mel, your apparel and gear expert. So it's the end of the season, and you forgot to wash your liner. Sometimes washing the inside of your helmet liner could be one of the most important things you could be doing for your helmet. And not to mention yourself. Let's say you have a hot date, and you shower up, get all ready and clean, wash your face and head, and then you place on that grimy, dirty, unclean helmet. Now, that doesn't make much sense now, does it? You've spent all this time cleaning yourself, but yet you're putting on a dirty, dirty helmet. I mean, you wash your motorcycle, right? You wash your riding socks, right? So why not wash the inside of your helmet liner? So not only is this good for yourself personally in terms of hygiene, but it will also extend the life of your helmet. Listen, while you're riding, you're extruding oil and sweat, and that's not good for your helmet. In fact, that's why we usually say, if you have a helmet used daily, every 5 years, you should get a new helmet. That is because of the oils and salts in your sweat can help deteriorate the EPS foam. So check it out. If you clean it, you're actually going to help extend the life of your helmet and keep it safer for you. So let me show you how you can remove the liner from an Arai helmet, but this can also pertain for other helmets. It just depends if the liner and cheek pads and all that fun stuff can come out. But for today, let's focus on Arai helmets. In this portion, I will be using Arai's footage. So let me show you now how to remove the liner for an Arai specifically. First, you want to remove the ES chin cover. That simply just pops out. You're going to grab the frame of the ES chin cover and slide to the right or left and pop it out. Next, you're going to remove the hook from the cheek pad. It's a little plastic thing. It's hard to see. Here's a closer look. It's so hard to see here, but it's like a little hook on the inside. It's like a little pocket. Hook out. Next, remove the cheek pads. Now these just pop out. It's gonna feel like you're breaking it, but you're not. Now you're gonna remove the interior, the top headliner. It just pops out. There are 4 little tabs. You're not gonna break it, just be gentle. See? Boom. Interior is fixed by 4 buttons. Now you can remove the neck roll. Just slide left, right, or left side. And that's it. Now let's remove the chin strap covers. Those do come out. Those get dirty too, you know. It's just fixed by a yellow hook. You just pull it right out. See that? Right there. Yellow. Look kind of orange though. Pop that sucker right out and hand wash that. Now, after the removal of the cheek pads and headliner, you're gonna want to hand wash these items. And the reason I say that, you don't want to just throw it into your washing machine. I mean, I guess you could, but just put it on a really gentle cycle. But I highly suggest that you hand wash them. Now, when you're washing your headliner and cheek pads, always use a mild detergent. Don't use bleach, because that can damage that can damage all that stuff. Now, there are specific products out there that you can use that are made for more technical apparel, so to speak. What I suggest is Nick Wax, specifically the Nick Wax Tech Wash. So why is this stuff good? Well, let me tell you. Now, this stuff was originally created for rain and ski gear. But honestly, it was made for anything technical in regards to apparel. You see, like I was telling you earlier, all that sweat and oils from your body can, kind of clog up the materials and they can't do their job right. So once again, keeping your liner clean and cheek pads clean helps the helmet do its job for you in terms of being comfortable. And it helps extend the life of the helmet. So this is straight from Nick Wax. Breathable waterproof garments are most likely to get sweaty and wet inside when used in damp or wet conditions. If the outer fabric absorbs water, the garment can lose up to 70% of its breathability. Therefore, the durable water repellency DWR, on the outer fabric of your jacket must be maintained to ensure comfort. Nick Wax Tech Wash will revitalize the DWR and therefore breathability of your garment. So yes, I know this is talking about the outside of a garment, but this also includes the inside, especially with these liners and cheek pads. If you don't have this stuff, this Nick Wax, just use a real mild detergent. So when you're hand washing these, just hand wash them like you would regular clothes, you know, nice and gentle. Don't squish it too much. Make sure you squeeze out the excess water and soap. Just run it through a few times. And then most importantly, don't throw it in the dryer. If you throw it in the dryer, it'll end up being like a triple extra small liner in cheek pads. And then I guess you can get a helmet for your dog or cat. Just let it air dry. Don't sit it out in direct sun though. Just leave it in a nice cool place and let nature take its course. And if you have any questions on how to remove a liner for your helmet, feel free to ask me in the comments below.
40-second tutorial on how to get gas in New York City. Pull up like normal. Get the gas yourself. Don't let the attendants do it. Pay like normal. Open gas tank. Choose the gas. And here's the important part. You want to be able to see the gas going in so you know when it's about an inch from the top. Close it up, and you're good to go. So here's just a quick summary. As number 1, get the gas like normal. Number 2, make sure you get the gas yourself. Don't let the attendant do it. Number 3, make sure you can see the nozzle as the gas is pouring in so you know when it's an inch from the top. Number 4, get the best grade gas possible. And number 5, this is how you do it in NYC. Check it out. Freedom Tower, baby. I love NYC. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Learning to move your motorcycle, aka push your motorcycle, is an essential skill every motorcyclist should know. For places here like New York City where parking is at a premium, it is a good skill to have to get into those tight spots. As I put my left hand on the left handlebar, take your right hand and place it on the tank or the seat. Keep your body away from the motorcycle. Keep your body at an angle and push back like you see here. Once again, lean and face the motorcycle, take side steps back, and you're good to go. Here's another angle. I'm leaning into it, I'm sidestepping, controlling it with both my left hand and my right hand. Once again, right hand on the tank or the seat, left hand on the left handlebar. In addition, I'm actually putting my weight and finding the balance between the bike and my own body. Now obviously every motorcycle is different. It depends on the weight, it depends on the brand, it depends on the size, it depends on how big you are. But in my job, we push bikes on a daily basis of all brands and of all sizes. It wasn't easy at first, but once you learn the technique and with practice, you should be able to move your own motorcycle. Now I know in those videos I might be oversimplifying it. I made it look easier than it really is, but the main thing is you want to make sure you have full control while you're holding that bike. So if I were to break this up into several steps, this is what I would say. Step 1, approach the motorcycle from the left side. Step 2, while facing the motorcycle, put your left hand on the left handlebar and then your right hand on the top of the tank or the front of the seat. Step 3, get used to feeling the weight of the motorcycle or bike and try to find that balance point. You're gonna wanna kind of shift your feet a little bit further away from the motorcycle, lean your body forward, and kind of like feel the weight little by little till you feel comfortable that you can control it. So a little something like this. If this is the motorcycle and this is you, this is your feet right here. Shift your feet back a little, kind of lean into it. So you kind of are balancing it out. Step 4, while you're still holding the handlebar and the tank or seat, slowly start shifting the bike backwards or forwards just to get used to the weight. Step 5, walk in a shuffle action in terms of sideways. Once you feel comfortable, go ahead and try pushing the bike a little further. It could be forwards or it could be backwards. Once you have that technique and once you feel the weight of the motorcycle and have that into your muscle memory, you'll find it's a skill that's going to be priceless. And also remember, this is a good skill when just pushing your motorcycle forward. In addition, I also find if you feel comfortable with the weight of your own personal motorcycle, it'll actually give you more confidence while you're riding the motorcycle. And please, as a note, take your time with this. Don't try to just push yourself to just push. Don't try to just get to yourself to just immediately start pushing the bike forward and back and muscling through. You don't want to drop your bike.
Oh shit!
It took me some time to learn, and I'm sure it's going to take you some time to learn. Just be patient with it, and then you can master the art of pushing your motorcycle. But what about you guys? Do you have a different way of pushing a motorcycle? Do you have a preferred way? Do you have the best way? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you out on your pushing journey.
Don't get squashed like a bug while you're waiting to make a left turn here in New York City. Let me show you. So as I'm approaching, waiting to make a left turn over here on the West Side Highway, instead of parking right behind this car, I like to put myself at an angle, like so. See? This way, I have somewhere to go in case the car behind me decides not to stop or is not paying attention. I just move to the left, and if that car is not stopping, he's crashing into the car I was just behind. Stay safe out there, guys. Bye. Oh, and one more thing. In order for this technique to work, you actually need to pay attention to your rearview mirrors. So while you're sitting there, take a look at your rearview mirrors, take a look at what's in front of you. Have situational awareness, as I say. All right. Again, bye, guys. Stay safe.
So you want to take a passenger on your motorcycle for the first time. Well, let me show you my tips on how to do that with the lovely assistance of my friend, Yuki. Now to start off, make sure your passenger is fully geared. Here we have Yuki with helmet, riding gloves, riding jacket, riding leggings, and riding boots. Remember, safety is not only your concern, but of your passenger's concern, because you're responsible for that person. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how to properly place your body to prepare for the rider to hop on the back. So let's take a look of me in the streets of New York City. So ideally what you want to do is put up the kickstand, plant your left foot, plant your right foot, firm up your arms, and you should be good to go. So once your body is planted and ready, it's time to let the passenger know it's time to get on. So once you put the kickstand up, you let them know that it's time to get on. I'm planting my feet firmly, locking my arms. She's throwing her leg over, putting her feet on the passenger pegs, and you're good to go. Now let's talk about body positioning for your passenger. One thing I like to always say to the passenger is pretend they're a backpack. This portion is going to be more in regards to body positioning as the passenger. So let me get Yuki to jump right on whenever you're ready, Yuki. Her job is to basically replicate whatever I'm doing body movement wise. For example, if I'm leaning to the right, she just leans to the right too. And I'm sorry, I can't lean that much because we're not moving. Lean to the left, she's leaning to the left. She's not overcompensating, she's not overdoing it, she's leaning the same direction. I mean, what she doesn't want to do, what I don't want her to do, or any passenger to do, is like, if I'm leaning to the right, for her not to go to lean to the left, because I'm gonna lose control that way. It's gonna throw me off in terms of the one controlling the motorcycle. So once again, if you can see, just look at her body movement, and I'll switch back the shots. If I'm leaning to the right, she slowly leans to right, nothing too crazy. If I'm leaning to the left, she slowly leaning to the left, and nothing too crazy. And that goes for even like tighter turns. She's just basically literally just copying exactly what I'm doing. Good job, Yuki. Oh, and one more thing. To make it easier for her in terms of riding as a passenger, rather than like she could just, she could have just squeezed on like that, but that's a little too much for her and for me. It's a lot of work for me. But what she is actually doing, you can probably tell from the shot from behind, she is, yeah, as you can see, tightening her legs. She's gripping not only to the motorcycle itself, and it's actually going to depend on what motorcycle you have, but it's actually, right now, it's gripping to the motorcycle, and it's also gripping to my hips. So that gives her full control. Look, her hands are free. Actually, it's a lot easier for me too, because then, look at that, and look how she's moving. Perfect. Yeah, so that's another good tip. Now let's talk communication. Communication between you and the rider. And usually that's done with comms. So if you have comms, that's a good thing. So I highly suggest that you pick up a pair of comms for both helmets. Now let's take a look of what I do to communicate with my passenger, especially when it comes to stopping and starting. So another important thing is communication. One thing I will always do, and I know I'm not wearing a helmet, this is honestly, I'm doing this for the sake of so you guys can actually hear me. I don't know if you can with all these ACs and stuff. But ideally, communication is key for the passenger. I will let her know when I'm coming to a stop or when I'm about to leave. So for example, and yes, I know I'm not wearing a helmet, but that's okay. So as we're moving forward, I'll say, hey, coming to a stop, slow down, hitting the front brake, so that she knows, right? And what she did actually at that point, she's firmly put her legs to know. So then, let's say we're at a red light, it's about to turn green. I'm like, okay, we're about to go. So let's go. So her body's ready, I'm ready, and we just take off. So that's basically it, in a simplified way. So I hope this video helps you out when you take on your first passenger. If you have any questions, or comments, or suggestions, please leave it down below. Have you ever wondered where is an ideal spot to park your motorcycle in New York City? Let me show you. Ideally, I like to park at the end of a street near intersections. Let's take this intersection, for example. So in this example, you have 1, 2, and 3 choices. So what I like to look for is where the flow of traffic is at the intersection. This street is one way, going that way with no possibility of turning right, while this street is one way with the only possibility of turning right. So that leaves me with 2 good options. This section here, because the flow of traffic can only go straight, and meaning no one can turn right and accidentally bump into my motorcycle. Or this spot right here, because any flow of traffic, any cars turning will only turn right and not turn into my motorcycle.
Will congestion pricing affect New York City motorcyclists? Let's hope not.
So here I am, guys, on the corner of West End and West 61st, where one of the first congestion pricing gantries is going up. Let me show you. It looks like it is really happening, as see, those are cameras. So what does that mean for us as motorcyclists here in New York City or anyone visiting? It means we might have to get charged for going in downtown Manhattan. So the borders of this congestion pricing zone are going to be south of 60th Street, West Side Highway, and FDR. Once you enter in, you're going to get hit with a charge. So apparently, New York Assembly member Felix Ortiz has introduced a bill called AB 6080. With AB 6080, it is hoped that they will actually exempt motorcyclists from the congestion pricing. So let's hope for the best, fellow motorcyclists who live here in New York City and are planning to come visit New York City. I'm so serious in this video. Let me smile. Don't ride a motorcycle here in NYC. Well, not until you master these tips of avoiding hazards. Yes, riding a motorcycle can be extremely fun and freeing, but you still have to be hyper aware no matter where you ride. That's where riding in the big city, in particular New York City, adds some new elements you may not be aware of. So to help you guys out, I rummaged through a ton of old videos of me riding in New York City to give you these tips. Here are 5 tips for you to master for avoiding hazards so you can ride safely in NYC or any big city. I'll also leave this list at the end of the video. Hazard number 1, pedestrians and tourists. Listen, here in New York City, we love the tourists and even the local pedestrians. But sometimes you're gonna have jaywalkers and distracted tourists. Pedestrians in NYC often cross streets unexpectedly. I'm walking here! Or distracted by their phones, creating dangerous situations for riders. So here's a tip. Always assume someone will step out in front of you, especially in tourist-heavy areas like Times Square. Keep an eye on crosswalks, even if you have the green. I mean, here's a perfect example. Another thing to keep a lookout for in this category, large crowds during events. When events like parades or protests happen, the streets become unpredictable, with pedestrians flooding the road. Here's my tip. If you can, avoid riding through areas where large events are taking place. Crowds mean more opportunities for sudden stops and people walking into traffic. And another fun thing in this category, tourists on city bikes. Tourists renting city bikes may be unfamiliar with city streets, making erratic movements. Here's my tip. Give city bike riders extra room. They may suddenly stop or veer unexpectedly. Number 2, cabs and for hire vehicles, i.e. taxis and Uber/Lyft drivers. Taxis and for hire vehicles make sudden stops to pick up or drop off passengers, or even change lanes without signaling. Here's my tip. Always stay out of their blind spots. And always anticipate sudden stops, especially near busy intersections or tourist attractions. And there are a ton of those in New York City. Another fun thing within this category, rideshare navigation issues. I mean, we've all been there, where you're looking up directions and they just suddenly change on you, meaning you're making quick movements to figure out where you're exiting. Uber and Lyft drivers often use GPS, which can cause them to make last-minute lane changes or sudden stops. Tip, keep a safe distance and be ready for unexpected moves. Another thing to look out for is dooring risks. Now, many of you bicyclists out there know this, but but this could be something new for motorcyclists. Now, as you can see in some of my videos, I do like to kind of split lanes, and sometimes it's just necessary. But if you do, look out for opening doors. Passengers in cabs or rideshare cars often open their doors without checking for motorcycles. Here's my tip. Be cautious when riding near parked cars or slow-moving cars. People might just pop open a door right in front of you, and that would be a bad day. Number 3. Street construction and road hazards, specifically potholes and uneven surfaces. NYC streets are notorious for potholes and construction zones that leave roads uneven and unpredictable. Tip: scan the road ahead and avoid swerving at the last minute. Reduce speed when you see construction signs to give yourself time to react. Another fun thing within this category: street cones and barricades. Street construction often forces you into tight lanes with cones and barriers, making it difficult to maneuver. Tip: stay visible and avoid squeezing between construction zones and traffic, as these lanes can narrow suddenly. Another fun thing within this category, my favorite: metal plates and wet surfaces. Metal plates covering roadwork can be extremely slippery, especially when wet. Tip: try not to lean into turns, especially when riding over metal surfaces, and approach them slowly, especially if the roads are wet. Number 4. Traffic hazards, running red lights, and aggressive drivers. So as many of you riders are aware of, some drivers, even cyclists, may try to beat the red light, which poses a major hazard at intersections. Tip: always double check intersections before accelerating on a green light. Just because you have the right of way doesn't mean drivers will stop. And also within this category, aggressive and impatient drivers. NYC drivers can be aggressive and impatient, often cutting off motorcyclists just to get ahead in traffic. Tip: be assertive but not aggressive. Make yourself visible, which is why I favor loud exhausts. And avoid getting into close calls with drivers who are in a rush. Speaking of drivers who are in a rush, let's talk about delivery trucks and buses. These larger vehicles have limited visibility and often take wide turns without signaling. Tip: keep extra distance from trucks and buses, especially in tight city streets. 5. E-bikes and electric scooters. One of my biggest annoyances are the e-bike delivery riders. And I know they're just doing their job. E-bike delivery riders move quickly through traffic and may not follow all the traffic rules, as seen here. A guy almost hit me. They like to swerve in and out of lanes. Tip: stay alert and give them space. They often zip around cars and are extremely unpredictable. Another fun thing in this category: electric scooters. Yeah, riders on electric scooters often ride between bike lanes and vehicle lanes, making it hard to predict where they're gonna go next. Yay. Tip: be cautious when approaching scooters. They can quickly shift into your lane without warning. Give them space and expect the unexpected. So in conclusion, from distracted tourists to aggressive drivers, NYC streets present plenty of challenges for a motorcyclist. But with the right awareness and techniques, you can stay safe and enjoy the ride. My final tip: always scan your surroundings, anticipate hazards, and never assume other road users will follow the rules. So what about you? What tips can you add to help other riders riding in NYC or any other big city? Leave a comment below. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to check out this video. Or this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more motorcycle tips and tricks for the city. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see ya.